Our final speaker, Dr. Jin Rong. Jin Rong is a principal engineer at Alibaba Group. He's previously a computer science and engineering professor at the Michigan State University, focused on statistical machine learning and its application to information retrieval. Dr. Jin has published over 200 conference and journal articles on related topics. He holds a PhD in computer science from Carnegie Mellon University and received the NSF Career Award in 2006. Dr. Jin, please.
Oh, thanks for people still stay to the last minute. I hope that it's not because the door is shut, people from moving out. So my name is Ron Jing. I used to be with the university for a number of years. So I joined Alibaba 2014. So actually compared to the previous leaders, I'm kind of unique in a way that this is actually my first industry job. So I have, at least at the very beginning, hard time in terms of struggling between sort of technology excellency versus pushing business forward. So I do actually have lots of interesting stuff. I mean, as you can see, if you compare me with the previous speaker, one of the clear distinctive features is that I'm clearly older than most of the young tigers you have seen in the last few. Even our CTO seems to be significantly younger than what I'm looking at, right? So one of the things I think, if you have opportunities to join the team, you'll see, you have to going through this struggle as how to work with this quote unquote young tiger, very energetic, very aggressive, and sometimes beyond reasonable. Anyways, I think all this is try to say, even though there's been I've been with Ali for 2 years, a little more than 2 years. It's for the excitement as well as the frustration. But by the end of the day, I have to say the excitement overwhelms the frustration. So it's worthwhile. So if you'd like to know more about it, I'd be happy to share my experience in a very frank and honest way after talk or even in tonight's event. Just up to you, okay? Okay, so the good news is now this is going to be very last talk, and you're not going to be tortured anymore. Well, the bad news is that I'm going to shift my gear to a different territory. This is no longer a system talk. This is talk more about quote unquote machine learning, intelligence, optimization. Well, bear with me if you don't have any background with that. Okay, so the particular problem I'm talking about is actually in a nutshell a very simple problem. It's called assignment problem. Okay, so the issue is the follows. Abstractly speaking, what you have is you're going to have a bipartite type graph. On one side of the graph, you have a number of tasks. Let's say you have n different tasks. On the other side of the graph, you're going to have m different agents. Now, if you assign a particular task to an agent, you're going to get a certain reward. Apparently, the reward varies from the different assignment you have. Okay, so by the end of the day, the question typically you have to address is how to make a proper assignment in a way that you optimize a word. But the story doesn't end just right over there. The other thing that really causes this problem to be challenging problem is the constraint. In many cases, each agent is only allowed to perform a limited number of tasks. At the same time, each task often only can be assigned to a small number of agents. So under those constraints, you have to figure out what would be the right optimal solution that maximizes the overall reward. And that's the technology we're going to talk about today. Now, even though this sounds a very abstract problem, it does actually have a numerous application in e-commerce. I think one of the application, let me just elaborate over here, is called online advertisement. So in the case of online advertisement, the goal would be find each user or each opportunity the best advertisements that fit in with his interest, right? So most of the efforts that have been done in the past is try to figure out what would be the best advertisement for each individual users. But that actually is not the end of the story, because often is the case if you're looking at different advertisers, they actually have so-called budget constraint. they only have a certain amount of money to be utilized for every day on the advertisement. As a result, the number of impressions, number of clicks they can afford is going to be very limited. So the question is, under the constraint that every advertiser only have a limited number of opportunity to be presented to the user. Now, how are you going to make a proper choice of advertisement for individual use in a way that you can, on one hand, maximize the revenue, on the other hand, fitting with the budget constraint of each individual advertiser, right? So as you can see, this problem clearly nicely mapped to the assignment problem I just mentioned at the beginning, right? So what you have over here is that so the agent here is going to be the agent here is going to be the user. The task here is going to be the advertiser, right? And the constraint here is that due to the constraint of the budget, you only have a number of opportunity to display each individual advertiser. Okay, so that's the problem. Now, so the other problem actually, in my opinion, is quite interesting. Also arises in the application of Alibaba. Is I call the article. Now, for most people here speak Chinese, it's called 问大家. So the products is work in the following way. Now, most of the people you do the online shopping, you often have certain doubts about product, about the quality of certain product, right? So you often have the request to sort out the last doubt before you making the final purchase. Now the issue is that when you have a certain question about the quality of products, now unfortunately the platform usually cannot provide the honest and the best answer. So the way that the system to help user to resolve the doubt is essentially to distribute those questions to the potential user who actually have made purchase of the same product and have the potential to answer the question, right? Okay, but then the issue is that you really do not want to bug the user with many questions. Now, it's very likely certain user is extremely knowledgeable and have purchased a large number of products in the past, right? Now, those are the people who become a very good resource for answer questions, but unfortunately, if you keep on bugging those users with the questions, it will eventually completely disappear for not answering any question at all. So the issue here we address in terms of constraints that for every potential user who are able to provide answer, they actually can only be bugged for a limited number of times. So in a way that you do actually not giving the user the better experience in terms of addressing the questions. And again, it's not difficult to see that this problem can be very nicely mapped into the assignment problem that we have mentioned before, right? So we have here, as you can see, the task becomes a question raised by individual users who have a doubt before making purchase, and the agents we have over here is those people who actually make purchase in the past and have the potential to answer the question. And then the constraint we have here is that we really do not want to bug those potential users with too many questions, because they're going to completely disgust us if we do that. Okay, now those are the two questions, two examples I have raised. There will be many other applications, including mobile message pushing, online traffic allocation, distribution of coupons, stock aware online recommendation, online assignment delivery request, etc., etc. So due to time constraint, I'm not going to elaborate any of these tasks. Okay, so unfortunately, not like previous talk, I have to overload you with a little bit of equation, because without those, I do actually have trouble to explain my point in a mostly accurate way. So bear with me with that. So let me just use the N to represent the number of agents we have. M is the number of tasks. Now the key quantity here is Cij. Cij is the estimated word when you assign the agent I to the task J. So this is a key quantity because we would like to maximize overall the word. Right? And then we also have this constraint Ki, which restricts the number of tasks can be performed by individual agents. Okay? So the optimization problem we're facing over here is essentially we have this object function as, and let me explain the X here. So X here is the assignment decision. You have to make an assignment about which task is assigned to which agent, right? So the X binary variable deciding the assignment of I's agent to the J's task. So the optimization problem we try to solve here is essentially to optimize the overall award as state of the object function, and then restriction is essentially the limited number of tasks to be performed by individual agents. Right? Okay. There are many ways to solve this problem, even though this is binary. So the combinatorial optimization problem, one common way is to do so-called linear relaxation in a way that you actually not treat X as a binary variable, but a continuous variable between 0 and 1. Okay, and then you have a very standard called rounding procedure to turn the fraction number into that binary number. And those are very well established in the OR or the CS the literature. Okay? Okay. All right, so in general, this assignment problem is extremely well studied, both in the CS community, also in the optimization community, even in the economy community. But there are two actually very, very important technical questions that somehow overseen by almost all literatures. The very first problem is about this quantity Cij. So as I said before, Cij is estimated quantity, or estimated award, when you assign agent I to the task J. Right? Unfortunately, so if you go back to the question about the online advertisement, this Cij actually relates to the click-through estimation. And as we know that those estimated quantities never be accurate, often could be very off targets. Right? So it comes to the question that using those very inaccurate, unreliable estimation of the word, how could on earth you can come up with an optimal assignment? As opposed to you get a really, really bad solution because of the off target estimation. The second issue coming from the fact that this entire assignment problem setup is actually assume that you know everything about the things you're going to deal with, right? You know every single task going to be performed in whatever time window you look at. Right? Unfortunately, in the real scenario, you often have to deal with the emergent task, and you have to make a decision in terms of assignment in an online fashion. So the second question is how to deal with assignment problem if all the tasks are emerging in online fashion and you have to make the decision about assignment immediately when you see the task emerge. And that is the two things that we're going to talk about as people living, and then again, bear with me, this is going to be a short, hopefully interesting talk. So to deal with the very first one, actually we call the robust matching. So there are two different technologies. I'm going to briefly introduce. One is based on the robust optimization theory, and the second one is based on the so-called stable matching theory. Now for the second problem, I call the online matching problem. Again, two different set of technology. I'm going to briefly introduce over here. One is based on so-called online algorithm based on prime deal theory, and the second is based on the so-called online online constraint optimization theory, which is built in-house in Alibaba. Okay, so let me quickly looking at the very first issue, right? So as I said before, when we look at this problem of optimization, one of the issues is that quantity Cij being highlighted by both firms is actually estimated based on historical count, so therefore can be off target in a very serious way. So the question is, I'm going to deal with it. So one way to deal with this issue is to assume that even though I cannot come up with a very accurate estimation of the quantity, but I do actually can come up with a good range estimation to ensure that with high probability those quantities Cij will fall into that range. So with the range estimation, the question would be, is there any way you can take that uncertainty into account when you come up with the estimation of the assignment? Right? So one way to do that is to think about, when you're solving this optimization problem, this value is actually a value depends on the C, right? So to some degree, you can view this optimization value is actually a function of C, let me call it GC. On the other hand, as I stated before that, you probably have some means to estimate the interval range for each of quantity. So what you can do is you can actually combine this together, by looking at the solution of the assignment in a way that you're going to minimize the C respect to the range that you have calculated from history. Now, if you look at this problem, this becomes a well-known min-max optimization problem. And so, in fact, if you look at the literature, this is called convex-concave matrix gain theory. But so it turns out that usually it's computationally expensive, and then we have a very nice theory by introducing regularization to take care of the min-max structure, which is usually hard to optimize. Now I'm going to skip the technical details, simply just give you the results. Oops, this is really fast. Okay, so we actually apply this so-called robust optimization theory approach to online display ad problems. So we here deal with over 10,000 advertisements, over 100 million users. Now, if you utilize those technologies by taking account of uncertainty for those quantities, you actually can noticeably improve your revenue, which is roughly actually 20%, if not more. So it seems to be working pretty nicely. Now, the second thing that I would like to talk about is called a stable matching theory. This actually is the theory originally from the economy. So one of the study in economy is really looking at so-called matching, right? So if you have a so-called marriage market, so you have a two-party involving men and women, so the matching problem is trying to find the best matching between men and women. On the other hand, so this is usually called one-to-one matching, and on the other hand, if you're looking at the market of company and employee, then it's become a one-to-many matching because each company is going to hire more than one employee usually. Okay. Now I don't know how many people here are familiar with the stable matching theory. So in the case most people are not familiar with, let me give you a very simple, interesting introduction about it. I guarantee you this is not going to be very boring because this is about marriage or stable marriage. So the problem is setting as following. So you have a set of here we have 3 men, 3 women. Right? So now in order to build a proper marriage, you ask each man and woman to provide the preference of their partners. Right? So as you can see, if I'm looking at man 1, so he mostly, his best partner in his viewpoint is W2, then the second one is W1, and last one W3, so on and so forth. So you query each of the men and women in the market, and you come up with a list of the preference from each individual participant. Okay? So then you try to come up with a matching solution. Right? So one of the key questions that you should ask yourself is how to judge if the match is a good match or bad match. Right? Apparently, you really want the society to be stable and harmony in some way. So let's look at this particular matching. So I'm going to match M1 with W1, M2 with W2, M3 with W3. Totally random solution. Now the question is this going to be a good matching or not? Okay, due to the time constraint, I'm not going to take the vote, but if you're looking at this data hard enough, you realize this could be a terrible, terrible matching. Why? Because if you're looking at this potential couple, M1 and W2, so let's look at M1. M1 is actually think W2 is going to be better partner for him than W1, right? Remember, W1 is the currently assigned partner. So when M1 meet with W2, there's a clear tendency from the viewpoint of M1 to divorce his current partner and try to get marriage with W2. Okay, so, but on the other hand, if you look at the viewpoint of W2, right? So W2 currently is married to M2, but look at his preference list. She likes M1 more than M2. So again, when this M1 and W2 meet, both of them have a tendency of marry with each other and divorce the current couples, divorce current partners, right? And therefore, this is not a good matching. This is not a stable match. This is what causing instability. I assume everybody agree with me on that, right? So therefore, the essential concept to so-called stable matching is this stability. That is, if you have a matching So any pair like M1W2 is called a blocking pair because those pair will become the essential elements to causing the instability of our marriage. So what is called a stable marriage matching is essentially the matching you cannot find any blocking pair, and that's called good matching. That's called stable matching. Okay, so if everybody agree with me that stable matching is clearly a better matching compared with any other matching, then therefore instead of looking at all the possible matching, I'm going to restrict ourselves to look at that so-called good matching or stable matching. So therefore, instead of finding the optimal matching among all the possible matching pairs, I'm going to only consider the optimal matching within the territory of stable matching. Okay? And turns out this is a very well-known algorithm to do that. It's called a deferred acceptance algorithm developed in 1960. Extremely well established. Okay, let me say a few good words about this matching algorithm. So first of all, you realize that in order to accomplish stable matching, I do not need numerical value as exactly how M1 compare W1, W2, W3. I only need a preference order, right? So therefore here, the dependency of the solution on the numerical value is going to be greatly reduced because I only need a preference list instead of numerical assignments for each of pairs. Second issue is that the computational efficiency is greatly improved. It's well known that if you're solving the assignment problem, the minimax cost is going to be cubic in terms of the size of the problem, which is m cubed. Now, if you're solving that problem by using the DA algorithm, the cost is only n squared, which is greatly improve the computational cost. And then finally, one thing that to some degree you may be interested is essentially, as I said before, the solution finding by the DA is only optimal with respect to stable matching. Now, you may raise the question that how that solution compares with any other solution that you can possibly get in terms of the award. And actually you can prove that. Turns out that solution is at least the 1 minus 1 of E suboptimality compared to the optimal solution. In the case if people here are theoretical people, you may actually ask if these things can be further improved. And the bad news is that this cannot be further improved because if this can be further improved, NP equal to P. So, end of story. Okay, so we're actually running this with respect to this problem called mobile message pushing. So in this case, we have a large number of users. We have a number of messages we like to send to different users. Now, on one hand, we'd like to be sure that we get the enough number of clicks from the user by having those pushing message from. But on the other hand, we also want to be sure that one, that each user is only be disturbed with a limited number of messages. Second is that every message has been sent out with sufficient number of times. Okay, so as you can see with those constraints on mind, this is again can be rightly cast into the problem assignment. So we find out that if we do this by two-sided matching, we actually can improve the forms by 20% if we compare to the robust optimization approach. Okay. Okay, I think I'm running fast enough. So let me go into the second territory, which is I call the online matching problem. Right? So again, as I said before, I'm going to deal with two different technologies. One is based on online algorithm, primary deal, and the second one is based on online constraint optimization theory. Okay, so as I said before, one of the issues that somehow been overlooked by the study of assignment problem is that they assume all the tasks can be foreseen at the beginning, so therefore you can do the assignments in a batch sense. But unfortunately, in many cases, the tasks are emerging in an online fashion, therefore you have to make a decision in an online fashion. Okay, so one example is actually this called ask-all problem, right? So in this case, you actually have no idea what question and when those questions will be asked by different users. But you do actually have immediately figure out who that those questions has to be distributed to in order to get the answer within a short period of time. Okay, so one simple way to address this this online assignment problem is by a simple greedy average, right? So you can imagine if somebody issued a query, now you have a computation to figure out the amount of all the candidates of users who are likely to provide answer to those questions. And then you simply just send the question to those users with highest chance of making the right answer to the question, right? Simple enough. But the problem is that this idea, this greedy simple idea, does not take into account of the fact that we do not want to bug user with too many questions. So let me simply elaborate this question. So consider I have only two questions, Q1 and Q2. I only have two users, user A and user B, right? Now, so the number list over here is essentially how likely that each user will be able to address and answer to these two questions. So you look at user A here, it has 80% chance addressing both questions, while for user B, it have very high chance of addressing the question 1, but very low chance of addressing question 2. Okay? Okay, now consider the scenario that question 1 coming. Now if you take the greedy average, then you pretty well simply assign the question 1 to the user A, because clearly point A is larger than point Z. Question. Now then, let's assume that this user can only be bugged with one question. So after the user A being selected for the question 1, then he just gone from the market. Now when the user questions, so when the question Q2 coming, but now you're only left with the question user B, and unfortunately in this case user B actually have 10% chance to address the question. Therefore, as you can see, we start taking into account the limited number of questions that each user can address. This answer, this kind of greedy approach will give you a terrible solution. Okay. Okay, so the way we're addressing this problem is actually looking at so-called discounts. What this is really this is really inspired by the theory about the prime due online averages. I'm not going to elaborate with the great detail. So what I can elaborate is that even though in the online fashion I have no idea what is going to happen in the future, but I can actually come up with a strong guarantee. The guarantee is that the solution I come up with this online decision, even without any knowledge about the future, I still can come up with a solution with a word F, which essentially is 1 minus 1 with Z, and Z here is very close to E if we look at the large numbers. So, but one thing I cannot answer you is that I cannot say this constant cannot be further improved, like I said before, which I think is still be a mystery question to us. Okay, and so we run that actually against ask all. So we compare with a simple greedy average with I call it discount approach, and the performance improvement is quite staggering, which I did not expect. So we actually improve the answering rate by 40%. Without doing anything further, simply just doing the rescheduling based on the so-called discount approach. Okay? Okay, so let me get to the last one in the very, in just 1 minute, because this is a very technical one. So if people here familiar with the online theory, you should realize that for almost all online theory, particularly those based on prime view, they only can handle the linear object function. Anything go beyond linear, actually, there's no guarantee, at least to my best knowledge, and there's no way you can come with any good guarantee about solution. So, but unfortunately, in many cases, we really want to deal with problem that somehow the object function is no longer linear function. We have to deal with arbitrary nonlinear, could be convex, sometimes could be even non-convex loss functions. At the same time, our constraint could be generalized to any arbitrary linear constraint, which is not simply just constraint with respect to row and column of the X matrix. So the question is how we're going to deal with this. Okay, and that's actually become some of the efforts I've been doing for the last couple of weeks. So the sad story is that you actually can prove that if without any further constraint, if you're simply looking at this problem in a genetic form, there's just no way you can actually come up with good solutions. And so we actually proved the impossibility theory on the top of it. But if you're adding a certain constraint, restrict the form of constraint, you do actually can come up with interesting, nice problem to deal with the non-linear object functions. Okay, but I think this is really too technical, so I'm not going to looking at in very detailed sense. So we actually run it on so-called I call online constraint organization. Sorry, online traffic organization problem. So in this case, we actually have a large number of merchants who like to assign each merchants with the traffic in a way that fit with their demand. And at the same time also wants to maximize overall efficiency of platform. So with these two conflicts of the goals, you actually can cast the problem into what we call the online constraint organization problem. And by utilizing this approach versus the approach that only doing this assignment in a greedy sense, you actually improve the click-through rate by 100% of times. Very significant improvement. Okay, so I think I'm going to quickly end my talk right over here. So I guess slightly from previous different talk, I think other than just try to convey the technical information over here by looking at the technology advance we made over here, I think the other message I also want to deliver over here is that even for a business-driven company like Alibaba, and we do actually looking at excellent idea, brilliant thought. So one thing actually inspired me to moving from academia to industry is that I was usually working on the theoretical aspect of machine learning, which unfortunately would be very downplayed by, I mean, people here all know the deep learning, but I think very few people here know the, online organization, those kind of theoretical things, right? And to me, one of the greatest feeling I get when I work with Alibaba is that actually, if you do things right, if you work with right people, if you have a wide way to push your agenda, your theoretical accomplishment can be greatly amplified through this amazing platform. Thank you very much. I can take a few questions, I guess.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jin. Yes, this guy.
Hi, thank you, Professor. bring me back to our graduate school years. But in my previous life, actually, I spent a couple of years using stable metric algorithm to do CDN balancing. So I work at Alibaba and also Facebook, and we use a variant of those things. And one difficulty come up with that is these algorithms are extremely difficult to parallelize. So maybe you know something like that, but like in our way, we have like machines with 40 cores, but the algorithm runs only one thread. Okay. So do you know of any technique or things that can make it parallelizable and make it like scalable for like even across machines?
Okay. So this is actually an excellent question. So first of all, as you probably know, so typically the way I work with my teammate is that I generate, actually there's a lot of small twisting I'm not talking about here about the two sides. But usually the case is that I'm coming with the theory and errors and then I assume it's done. So it was delivered to the side of engineering team. So and actually I get a lot of complaints about it because to some degree I downplay their role quite a bit, right? So I take for granted that those are smart guy in black box and it's fitting with the errors and then it's supposed to come up with the solution exactly like that. But coming to your question, we do actually have a similar issue and our solution is actually pretty straightforward to classroom. So basically you do partition, right? So, but online fashion, I don't know how to do that. So if you know the things front, then you can do the partition. And that actually is not very challenging. But again, I don't know the guarantee. So this is a bad answer from my viewpoint, but it seems to work for us.
Another question?
Hi, so basically we all know the AI is going to be very big. So from your talk, I saw this very kind of in the sense of conventional machine learning algorithms.
Okay, all right.
So early this year, Google had AlphaGo, which beat human Go players, which is a big news, and they pretty much use the neural network, deep neural network. So my question is, for Alibaba, you guys must have very strategic positioning in AI field. And what's your opinion on neural network, and what's your prediction of how this AI field will evolve?
Okay, well, I think you probably asked the three questions, right? What is my opinion towards the deep learning? What is the company opinion towards deep learning? And then what is our roadmap towards the AI? Right, so let me try to answer first the question, because I think I'm properly to answer the first question, and I don't know if I can come up with a right answer for the second one, third one. So I usually don't like deep learning at all. I mean, there are many. So listen to me. I'm not trying to argue in a conventional old guy being beat by the young guy. Not that way. But the position I hold, a couple of things really frustrate me in terms of the booming of the deep learning. Right? So first issue is with the availability of this deep learning tool. Now all of a sudden, I mean, so people here, I don't know how many people here attend machine learning conference. I mean, in old days, when I say in old days, I mean 2000, early 2000. I mean, you see, 100 people in the room, right? People have, so now you see like, crowds of young guys just rushing into the room and talking all exciting about. I don't like that feeling, because people here often really get a very little education about machine learning. I mean, so one thing bad about this deep learning tool is that it makes everybody to be experts of machine learning, which I don't think that's true. So, well, in the case it works, I'm the guy in the world, right? In the case it doesn't work, shit, this is total shit about, right? So this is also my personal experience. Working with the young guys, particularly those guys have, certain experience of deep learning. I found they tend to sort of doing things in a very empirical way. Very little, for instance, they probably didn't even know what is exactly overfitting means, what exactly regularization means. So all these are good concepts that have been well established in the literature of machine learning, all being discarded. People here just have one single sword, and they thought they can overcome the world with that single way, which to me sounds ridiculous. Okay, I know this, but on the other hand, I do actually admit, even with the trouble, at least emotionally, that deep learning do actually be very, very successful in a few words. It's because I do actually lead both the speech team and image team. And as you can see, well, no matter how hard I'm going to argue against this technology, the fact is that it works for these two domains, right? So therefore, at least from my viewpoint, I really want to understand what exactly makes it works. So I think that is another downside by the entire community, which is now everything will be overwhelmed by the empirical system. There's a little thinking being put over as to what exactly is going on, right? Because if you're looking at the old literature of, I mean, why I say old, I mean 2005, I not mean 1980. I think don't mistake me with those really old guys. So my point is that if you look at the literature of the machine learning, most of the cases, learning is about categorizing the function space complexity, right? Learning is about how to deal with optimization convergency, and those are the very conventional hard questions usually you ask. Right? Unfortunately, if you're asking any of those deep learning guys, they sort of just hand you with the good answers without any efforts at all to look at those fundamental questions, right? So I think that's, to me, is really sad, because people are simply driven by empirical success. And there's a little, I hope that really people could come up with to looking at the fundamental issue. I guess I do too much complaining about it. but I do actually have, I actually talking with number of theoretical guys. I think there's a great interest now, after the great success of deep learning, really looking at from viewpoint function analysis, right? So what exactly would be function that being captured? How to categorize that function space complexity, right? And how to handle, for instance, the non-convex optimization. I mean, you do actually see that those smart people are being inspired by the success and looking at the questions, even though not with a great progress, but do actually look at each of the dots, I hope that by the end of the day, the dots can be connected, and then we do actually get the whole picture of the solution. So on the other hand, on this side, I thought to some degree, deep learning opened a great door to all the theory guy, which is, hey, don't sit in your comfort zone. Here's something that is much bigger, much challenge. Come and take on it. So in my opinion, that's a very positive message. So that's my first answer, right? And in terms of company, I don't think I have any authority to elaborate the company policy, but I think as a company, you really look at the utility of tools. Apparently anything works, and it works for business should be utilized. So indeed, if you look at our daily operation, deep learning is sort of must-have tools. Almost every people we interview with background learning or mining, we do actually ask, do you have any experience with utilizing the deep learning tools? How are you going to tell your performance, right? Because deep learning is kind of art. To me, that's another bad story, right? We're dealing with the science, but deep learning is indeed art. So it could fail, it could succeed. It's all, you have to keep your finger crossed sometimes. So from viewpoint of utility, I think it do actually be utilized widely company-wise, and I think there's no question. Now, your third question is clearly big, and I'm not sure I'm going to give you good answer, but let me give you my side of thinking, which I'm not sure, clearly it's going to be very, very biased, but that's what I thought about AI. So one thing I always thought that if you compare with machine learning, with the human learning, there was a tremendous issue which had been observed for a long period of time, never been resolved in any way, right? So if you look at the machine learning, so let's assume if we consider AI by the end of the day is essentially learning a prediction function or learning a decision function, if that's going to be the final goal, then almost all learning or AI algorithms is based on function approximation. I think that's a fair statement in my opinion. And unfortunately, if you're looking at all the function approximation theory, it's well known that for any class of the functions, the upper bound and lower bounds of sample complexity is very well established. So in general, you know that in order to learn a target function with a good accuracy, the number of examples has to be sufficient large enough. Otherwise, from the viewpoint of min-max bound, you have no chance to learn accurate function. But if you're looking at it from the human viewpoint, that's totally opposite. For most of the human, if you look at the learning, tens or almost hundreds of examples will be sufficient enough for them to understand the underlying logic and then do it in a relatively smooth and accurate way. So to me, that's always been a mysterious. How did that happen, right? So in other words, all this literature, all these beautiful results built over the function approximation doesn't explain any bits of the human learning that we have seen. So if you have to say what is the biggest question in AI, that to me was the biggest question in AI. So I don't know if that's good enough for you.
Just some comments about the human learning.
Right.
The scientists actually, when they study the human early development,
right.
They start growing from a baby, and the amount of information intake is astonishing. So basically, you assume human learning doesn't take too much of data. Actually, that data is very, very large. Right. So actually, human learning process is also taking a lot of data to train humans' neural network, and that's how they develop their learning.
Okay, so I think I really want to take this offline because I think
sure.
to keep everybody here is getting really late. And again, thank you very much for your attending.
Thank you, Dr.